Well, thank you guys so much for joining us here at the Warstic. Is this not the most badass location in all of Dallas? I've never been here. Who's been here? Raise your hand. Okay, one. We've got one fan. We've got one only fan here. Okay, so first timer. Who's coming from out of town? Who's not a Dallas resident? No. Raise your hand. Austin, raise your hand. There we are. Okay. All right. And then who's the Dallas native? Raise your hand. Can we get a woo? Can we get a woo? Small woo. You got it. We're not talking about anything super serious. I know it's been a lot of serious news lately, but this is meant to be fun, interactive. We're talking about baseball. We're here to have a good time. So thank you guys so much for joining. My name is CY. I'm the CMO of a brand you've never heard of, but if you watched Friday Night Baseball, anybody?
Yeah.
On Apple TV, your girl powers the predictive analytics that show up on screen for all of Friday Night Baseball, and I power the data behind the sports betting apps that you're not legally using here in Texas yet, but you will be. So thank you guys again for joining. I am so excited to be joined by this badass lineup of people. There's a lot of buzz around the All-Star game and what it means for the city and what it means for the bottom line. Everyone's talking about the tourism that's coming in, but I think the coolest part of the All-Star game is the culture and the vibe and the long-lasting energy and feelings that are brought from sports. And bringing it to a place like Arlington is a really cool part for, cool thing for Texas. And the fact that we filled up a room on a Sunday in Deep Ellum where there's no parking and a lot of things going on, is a testament to that. So thank you guys for joining. Before I dive too far in, I would love my panelists to introduce themselves. I've asked them to tell us who they are, what they do, and also what their walkout song would be if they were playing the MLB All-Star game tomorrow. So go ahead.
All right. Well, hey y'all. My name is AJ Andrews, and I'm a professional softball player, and I actually played at LSU collegiately, so I love to see it. And I am the first woman to ever win a Rolling Stone glove in professional softball. I currently am the host of MLB Network's Play Ball and Inside Stitch. Oh, my walk-up song. So my walk-up song in college was Bump Like This or Like This by Kelly Rowland.
Okay.
So told y'all I was gonna bump like this. That was the walk-up song. So Notch to Texas, and then also it was Outkast, So Fresh and So Clean. So depending on what vibe I was going with.
Love that.
That's great. I'm Cole Smith, originally from Amarillo, Texas, but now, or previously, I was the art director for the Texas Rangers. Last week was actually my last week with the Rangers, so bittersweet there, but transitioning to a new role with Underdog Fantasy, so also getting into the sports betting fantasy game app world, which is crazy and awesome, but excited about that. I've worked on tons of cool projects over the years, so excited to be here and chat with you guys. Walk-up song, I told them I'd probably switch it depending on what team I was on, but if I was on the Rangers, I'd probably do like Big X a Plug or maybe that Mexican team. Yeah, something like, I want the people at the ballpark to be like, that guy.
Yeah.
Like, that guy gets it. So it's less about me and more about the crowd.
Love it. Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Yepez, co-founder of Drafted. We are a sports media company connecting brands to passionate Latina sports fans. I think not a lot of people understand that women, especially Latinas, are driving and significantly are power players when it comes to sports fandom. We represent 40% of Major League Sports consumption, and to date, there's no company that's focusing on centering and harnessing her power, and we're doing it. So I also played softball in college, not to AJ's level. So my walk-up song in college used to be War, Lowrider. Oh, Lowrider. But I think it'd probably be J Belvin Vigente, but the Beyonce version.
Hi everyone, I'm Austin Laboda. I'm the marketing director at Hat Club. Been in the industry, professional sports and headwear for over a decade now. Previously was at New Era Cap and 47 brand. I have not won a gold glove. I was cut from JV baseball. My walk-up song I think would be Element by Kendrick Lamar.
I love that. I actually want to kick things off with you, Cole, because you waited conveniently for the Rangers to win a World Series, and then you're like, thank you so much. I'm out of here. So, the day one was what? When we talked, it was like Thursday or Friday. It was your first day at your new job.
Yeah, literally this week. Yeah.
This is fresh. Okay, well, I assume you had something to do with some of the thought behind All-Star. So, how long ago did Dallas find out they'd be, or Arlington and the Ranger Stadium find out they would be part of this? And then creatively, what did you guys think about bringing Texas culture to the All-Star game? What were some thoughts behind it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we found out, we heard rumors, so probably nothing confirmed, at least like 3 years ago. I think some of that, really got dictated when Atlanta lost the All-Star game, and then they were kind of like trying to move things around, like who's going to get it next and all this stuff. But thank God we built a roof over our ballpark, so it made it a whole lot more appealing for MLB to be like, wait, like these guys can totally handle it. So it's probably, it's at least been like 3 years that we've kind of known about it and been working with it. But overall, like, the tough challenge for us, and like, we'll talk about it a bunch, but like Texas and especially the Rangers like have a little bit of a dated kind of like cliche, like Texas Western tumbleweeds, flatlands and some cattle like right next to the stadium is like probably what people would imagine. So we really kind of pushed on MLB like, hey, like dig in, like figure out what actually is Texas culture, and like especially the Metroplex, because it's so different and so diverse all across this huge state. And so we really pushed back on them, even all the way down to the logos. Like we sent them mood boards that were like, hey, I know you're thinking belt buckle, but we're thinking like papel picado, which is like the little paper Mexican like decorations that you see all over Texas and Mexico. So like it was really kind of like pushing them as much as we can. Like, hey, like I know your first instinct is like barn doors and like old Western, but like if we could, like we really want people to see that Texas is more than just that. So that was the challenge. Whether they succeeded is like really tough, because like it's definitely out of our hands, right? It's an MLB run event, so we kind of have to take a back seat at some point and like let them figure it out. But as much as we could, we were in their ear, like, hey, like think about this, like think through it. So.
It's a balance. I think people come here and they're kind of looking for those things, right? They're like kind of expecting to see some horses around. So you gotta feed into it a little bit. But I totally get it. I went to the amazing hockey game that they did off the Winter Classic, and I don't know who was making decisions there, but I was really shocked by the amount of hay that I was standing on. I was like, guys, first of all, playing hockey in January outside, it was 60 degrees, but there's a lot of hay. And I was like, all right, who did this? But okay, I'm glad some thought went into it, and it seems like it's been a great turnout. We talked about City Connect as being a campaign and project you really enjoyed. That was really interesting to kind of hear the thoughts going in. I didn't know that the word Peagle existed. Tell us a little bit about the City Connect project and how that tapped into the community aspect of.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one for me, totally like a bucket list project. If you're a designer or creative, like coming up in the sports industry, like the jersey is like your holy grail. Like especially in baseball, right? Like we think about baseball jerseys as just like untouchable, like beautiful things of art that have not changed for hundreds of years. So like the idea that they're just like, hey, make a totally new one that like would attract somebody that's not your core fan. So that was kind of the challenge from Nike. Definitely tough for us, like I said, like in the perception of who we are. And then a City Connect jersey, when we're called the Texas Rangers, is also tough because we represent the whole state of Texas. So we really kind of dove into this. We went back and forth with Nike. Before I even got there, they had a jersey totally finished and approved and ready to go. They got rejected at the last second. It was actually, I think I can say this, I don't know if there's probably some Ranger people, but it was a Tejas jersey. And so like our people were so pumped and like so bought in and ready to release this Tejas jersey. And then at the last second, Nike actually pulled the plug and was like, hey, like, this was 2020, so we're in peak like COVID first of all, but also like the civil unrest that was going on, the George Floyd stuff was happening. Like the Rangers just opened their ballpark to like full crowds at like peak COVID time, so there was just a lot of like negative like energy going around. So they hit pause on the Tejas jersey because they just felt like it wasn't the right time for it. So then when I showed up, they were kind of like, hey, we're back at the drawing board. We're back at square one here. And so we really just focused on baseball and the Metroplex. That was really like where we were like, let's just set the foundation right right here and dig into how did this team become around, like what was here before the Rangers. And we found tons of cool history in the minor leagues. There were teams in Dallas, teams in Fort Worth, there's teams in Arlington, there were Negro League teams on both sides, and everybody wanted a major league team. But it wasn't until the Arlington mayor built Turnpike Stadium and the Dallas-Fort Worth Spurs that he got Dallas and Fort Worth to come together. And it was the first time that anybody across the country had seen the Metroplex like move as one, as a whole. And so that's when they realized like Major League Baseball can work in Dallas. So we really wanted to tell that story. It's a really cool jersey. Like Nike pushed us and they were like, hey, you gotta have black pants. Like you gotta do something super bold that would piss old white people off. So we were kind of like, absolutely, we can totally do that. Yeah, it did though. Like that was super jarring for like classic baseball fans to see dark pants on the field and like, yeah. So like it was a fun project, a huge challenge. But then it's tough to like, you look at the comments and everyone's like, these are trash, these are garbage, whatever. But then you see how many of those TX hats are around the city these days, and you just like puts a smile on your face because you realize like we hit the right audience when we did that, and so it's cool to see. But yeah, definitely a fun one to work on for sure.
That's a cool project. We've talked about jerseys and how important they are, but also we can't ignore the power of hats and what they represent in sports. And I love Hat Club. I gotta be honest, I didn't know much until we had our first call, so I did a deep dive. I really went all in. I am now your #1 fan. But Hat Club emphasizes tradition and innovation kind of in your approach. In your role, you are really active in developing the marketing strategies and the storytelling. I want you to though set the stage of what the power of hats, what they mean, and kind of this ever-evolving world of sports, but also fashion. You told me that most people buy the hats not because they're affiliated with the team, but they actually like the design and look of it first. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, Hat Club's whole MO is kind of pissing off the black pants purists. So it's we look at a different route to traditional sportswear. So really doing a lot of storytelling to make an emotional connection to the headwear, to the product itself, along with the brand as well. So that's something that Hat Club probably hangs its hat on the most, is the fact that, you know, we have built a community nationwide, very segmented within specific DMAs, but at the same time it has grown to a nationwide scale during the pandemic. And understandably, you haven't heard of Hat Club before. Dallas was one of our up and coming markets, and one of the markets that we actually saw a lot of surprise in when we partnered with SneakerCon 2 years ago. And we were doing a tour with SneakerCon, going city to city with SneakerCon, doing a massive build out at each city. And Dallas was one of the biggest turnouts that we had. So really positive and shocking for us. We know that Houston is a really big market for Hat Club, and we were shocked to see that Dallas was up there as well with the amount of people that were waiting in line. I don't know if anybody here is familiar with SneakerCon, but massive sneaker convention, has thousands of people roll through it every weekend. There was people dedicated only to Hat Club in Dallas. So that was a really big positive for us, and something that was very unique compared to any other city that we stopped at. So, you know, like Dallas headwear culture has grown tremendously. It's right up there with the Houstons and the LAs and the New Yorks of the world now. So, you know, like I think what we do better than anybody else in the industry is that storytelling that gets that emotional connection to that consumer, along with building that community alongside that. So definitely has to be a primary and secondary thing, and nothing can fall tertiary to between the two. So building community and building headwear culture is definitely our MO, and doing it with unique storytelling at the same time.
I love that. Talk to me a little bit about the silhouette. What a classy way to describe a type of hat. Yeah. The new era 5950 is like a staple of yours, and like really a staple in, I think, sports fashion fashion.
Yeah.
Like people build an entire outfit around their hat.
Yeah.
So talk to me about that silhouette and why that matters and why it's so relevant in your group and why it's so popular.
Yeah, so the 5950 really exploded during the pandemic. So, you know, a lot of people were looking at new ways to express their individuality, and that kind of came into the way of headwear. So, and that's where Hat Club, with our unique designs that we bring to the table, we use New Era as our primary manufacturer for that. We saw the 5950 as a perfect silhouette for that. So we look back and, you know, that there was a void in custom headwear for the past 20-ish years. You know, Spike Lee was actually the one that originated the custom fitted. So he was the first one ever to do something that broke the mold with rocking an all red and white Yankees hat back in 2002. So ever since then, it exploded, had a massive influence into hip hop culture through the late early 2000s. So like 2009, you know, and then started to fall by the wayside again. And then that was where Hat Club saw that opportunity, reaching out towards the pandemic, that custom headwear really wasn't in the mix anymore. It was more of that traditional blue and red for Texas Rangers, and that was it. You know, no one was wearing a green Texas Rangers hat anymore. So we saw that opportunity, brought it back into the mix. You know, shout out to Spike for everything that he's done and the way that he's built the culture, not only through all of his film work, but now through fashion as well. So we've had collections dedicated to him, and we hope to work with him in the near future on a collection as well. So, but you know, that was kind of where Hat Club looked at it from an outside perspective, saw an opportunity of there. No one was doing it besides traditional sports and sneaker hooks, and you can only do that so many times. So, building a new way to headwear customization was the way that Hat Club took it.
Yeah, I wrote an essay that spiked after you told me that story. I had no idea. I'm a Yankees fan myself, and I was like, the red hat. I mean, I know of it, but I didn't realize he literally was like, I got a jacket that I want to match. I had to make some. I literally had to call the owner of the Yankees and be like, we've got a request, let's make it happen. So I loved that. It was a really cool piece that he wrote of like the true impact of just wanting to match his outfit.
Right, exactly.
Love that. Love their voice and their fashion. Well, when I was doing my Hat Club deep dive, I love to look at social media, and you guys have a mega following across all platforms. But when I went to YouTube, I always like to look at like what are the most popular videos. And you guys did this really cool thing in 2023. It was kind of a promo piece with that Mexican OT, and it literally had over 1 million views, and like the nearest closest video had like 100,000.
Right.
And I thought that was really, really interesting. So it leads me, Jennifer, we've talked a lot about the power of the Latino fan, and this is a great segue into that. Just thinking about different demographics. And it reminded me of an article that I also read that was about how to win in sports. And it was like geared towards owners, teams, leagues, anyone who wants to tap into driving success for fan engagement. And it literally says, engage Latinos. Like that was that's it. Like, and it was very clear. So there's a lot of data, a lot of information. I want you to talk a little bit about what Drafted is and some of the key, metrics that we might not know about the power of that group and Latinas specifically.
Yeah, I love that because it usually just says that one line. Yeah. Oh, US Latinos are the future fandom, and then it just stops there, and there's nothing else to back it up in the meat.
There were no recommendations. It was like, just talk to them.
What do we do? Come see me and Jose from the Rangers. And it's fascinating because again, like no one understands that women are the future of fandom, particularly Latinas. I mean, we are representing 40% of major sports league consumption. Yet no one is talking to us, no one is centering us, and no one is harnessing our power. I mean, when you're thinking about the future of fandom, you gotta start young, and we're the youngest in this country, and we're the most influential, right? Black and brown women set culture in this country, and it's this data and this information doesn't really exist, and Drafted is the one that's actually starting to compile this information. And we're about to release a study on Latina fandom DNA. And our research is showing that Latinas can influence others twice as fast than an average female fan, right? And so that's, where are we watching the game? What are we buying? Where are we buying? Where are we watching? Are we going to the game? We're highly influential, and we have the money to back it up, right? If we were our own country with our GDP of $3.4 trillion, the money is there, the power is there. You have to start harnessing it and talking to us in culture.
I love that. You also talked about longevity, and I think there's something like a young fan, what does that represent? Well, it means you can tap into them sooner and then keep them longer and more engaged. So the survey, what are companies going to be able to access that? Who's going to be exposed to that data? Because I feel like they should all have it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're releasing next month. We're shooting for an August 20 release date, which is National Latina Day, right? We have to have some kind of a hook there.
What day was it?
August the 20th.
I gotta write this down.
And so, this is the first of its kind survey. Nothing like this has ever been done before. And so we're really excited because we know we can't just sit here and say, obviously I'm Latina, so I understand that, yes, I'm a sports fan, I'm a former player, I buy, I move, but I have to convince everybody else. I have to convince the haters of the black pants, right? Pale, male, and stale. So, this is, we're really excited about this because we're setting the trend and we're setting the pace. And it's up to brands, teams, and leagues to take that advice and move culture.
Love that. AJ, I want to move on to you've actually been all over the All-Star Village. And what have you been talk to us about? What have you been up to? What have you been doing?
Well,
you did a panel just before this.
I did a panel. I talked with Micah Johnson, who's a former Major League Baseball player, and then Noah Garden, who is the Deputy Commissioner for Major League Baseball. And so we had a discussion regarding Aku. So that is Micah's digital character that he's created that is actually something that is driving the culture, and he's really been able to move so much. And when I think of culture, I think of the fact that he's been able to impact baseball, not just the fans of art, the fans of baseball, the people around it. And Micah is someone that I really feel like, and after talking with him, his idea of starting Aku was after he heard a young black boy say, "Oh, I didn't know that Black people could be astronauts." And so Aku literally is this Black young character with a big, huge astronaut helmet. And my interpretation of it was, when you're young, we have these big dreams and these big goals, and there's nothing and no one that can stop us from achieving them. And then as we get older, the influence from so many different people really kind of stop and press us down. And the helmet is what's stopping all that other influence. And so the dreams remain within that helmet. And so his goal was to have the limitless possibilities of what Aku was, and the partnership with MLB to continue to bring that forward and to inspire so many young athletes, but also baseball players, right? We have to hang up the cleats at some point and going into your next mission, your next goal, your next passion. He's someone that I feel is a really driving force for that.
All that. Well, you made the point about representation and that kid not knowing that he could go and do something because he'd not seen it. So you touched on it a little bit, but you didn't flex all of the numbers here. You received the Gold Glove Award in 2016.
Yeah.
First woman ever, but what we didn't say was that 323 other people had gotten that award, and all men. That's a lot of people to have. Guys, it wasn't like, oh, this is the 7th award we've given out. They've given out hundreds of these awards, so I want to thank you for your representation on the field, but you do so much for the community and in your broadcasting work and your visibility on your platform. Like, I appreciate, as somebody who's in sports and don't see a lot of women doing or getting the exposure they deserve, but I really appreciate you making some noise for the causes you care about. So
Thanks, Queen.
you have killed it. I'm like a #1 fan over here. But you were talking about your face-to-face players. You're learning about the on the field and doing interviews, but you've done some really incredible interviews that I saw in France actually around the sports of business. And I was kind of hoping to see if I could watch more of those interviews, but you're really just tapped into the sports business world as well. And I'm curious, are other players getting into the business world? Are they focusing on more causes? I'm seeing more individualization in MLB more than I have before. I'm curious your take on that.
Yeah, well, with Major League Baseball, I feel like you see so many different players that are really diving into their passions. You'll see a lot of them. I mean, the lines really blurred between athletes want to be the rappers want to be the athletes. And now you really see they have the opportunity to do that. Jose Iglesias with the Mets, he actually has a #1 song. Oh my God, oh my God. I don't know. It's
I love that you sing every song for us because you don't know.
People love it. So, I think that players have a lot of opportunities to really dive into things that they enjoy. Francisco Lindor has his own shoe line with New Balance, and then you see Lawrence Butler with the A's, who is now getting into the studio. Jazz Chisholm Jr. is really big with fashion, and Mookie Betts as well. And so there's a lot of different players that are moving in their passions, and you're really able to see that. I talked a little bit about Micah Johnson, the impact he's having. I think he's definitely someone who's a driving force for that. So yeah, there's a lot of different players that are thinking post-career, and realizing that they have a lot of things that they can do and being able to capitalize off of who they are right now in order to expand and have a bigger reach that they could have.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about, you've played sports, you're now focusing on MLB, but I'm curious in your take on when you look at the other leagues in NFL and NBA as an example. NHL's got some work to do and they know it, but where does MLB fall on the kind of progressive nature of what they're doing to tap into fans? And then also I'm curious, what do you think about their front office? The leadership and diversity and the executives on these leagues. What's your take? Where does MLB fall into all of this?
Yeah, when I think of a league that drives a lot of social change, I think of the WNBA and the NBA, to be honest, particularly the WNBA. And so, I really believe that those women and men really are at the forefront of many different social impact and they're people that are really driving these conversations and letting it be known that these things are okay or these things are not okay. And I do think a lot of leagues are behind in that. I feel Major League Baseball is putting the mission and implementing the necessary things forward right now in order to make that change. Players Alliance, which is an organization that really focuses on Black and brown baseball players, getting them more into baseball, because we've seen such a disastrous decline in Black players in baseball for a really, really long time, and their mission is to stop that and get more Black players into the game. And so there's a lot of missions set forward. MLB RBI is another integration that's really working to make sure that there's young players that in underserved communities have the opportunity to play. And so really that representation that we talked about earlier is in the forefront of Major League Baseball's mind. And when you have that in the forefront, then you're able to have the conversations and have these people lead the conversations of what needs to happen in Major League Baseball. And in order to get those people in there, the people that are necessary, because as we talked about, you said Black and brown people drive culture. And when you see the chains and you see the swag and you see the influence in baseball, that's a lot of the Black and a lot of Latino players. And so to not be able to have the conversation around them or be able to put them in the forefront is really discouraging, and something that I think MLB is now making sure is a forefront focus. And that's why they have these collaborations with the likeness of Micah Johnson, making sure that they're getting Lawrence Butler into the studio so he can drop his album, and doing all the necessary things to make sure that what these players want to do and what's important to them comes to the forefront. But when it comes to moving the needle forward with having huge social impact, I do think Major League Baseball isn't where it needs to be. And so as long as we can continue to have the conversations and move it forward, then that's what's going to be necessary.
Yeah. When we chatted, you talked a lot about community development too, and what the teams are doing, really like the local level to drive engagement. And so I actually want to move to Cole on the topic of community. You're wearing a very cool hat that was brought to us by the Rangers and by way of Dallas. And I have not seen when people say like if you know and they put on a thing, half the time I'm like I don't know, so I don't get it. But like by way of Dallas, I get it. Like when people know that brand here in Dallas and the power of it, and they'll line up and wrap around the block to have access to these drops. And so I would love to hear your take on the collaboration that happened, because I've never seen so many people riled up about the hat and jacket, and it was incredible to see. So I'd love your insight on that.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, like, it helps when you have talented people doing it. And I think probably going back to your point too of if you want to like step into that culture, into the Black and brown culture that is driving fashion, art, music, like everything, like to us, and I'll speak for Jose Garcia, who's here as well, as our multicultural marketing director. He's back there at the bar. He's probably a couple deep already. But I think I'll speak for both of us that like our goal when we do those kind of collaborations, and when we do like reach out and are wanting to reach out to those communities, that it has to be done in the most authentic way, and it has to be done well, and it can't be a knockoff version, because I think those communities in particular are able to tell the real from the fake so easily. So like if you have that knockoff version like in the team store, they're gonna know that is not the real thing, and like they don't value me, they're not speaking to me, like I'm never gonna buy that. So like that's just like an instant thing in that community that I think it is super important. So for us, like when we want to do a collaboration, like it's super helpful, like I said, when you have a talented group like by way of Dallas, where we just give them the keys and we step back and we're like, all right, our only thing is like maybe we get the colors as close as possible if we're gonna do red and blue, but even that is like, man, I trust Hans and Trey and those guys to do whatever they want. So it's like, it takes a leap of faith on our end, on the Rangers end. It takes buy-in from ownership. It takes buy-in from the higher ups, right? So how do we do that? We gotta have numbers that back it up. We gotta show that these things can work. And I think that's a huge part of it as well. Like for us at the Rangers, like DFW is a minority majority city, the whole Metroplex, right? So like it's made up of over 50% Black and brown people, and Hispanics are going to be over 50% in like the next 2 years, and Mexicans specifically. So like that's super important, and like you said, the buying power is there. So like once you get the buy-in on the ownership side, it's about giving the keys to the right people, right? Like if I'm the one designing like the crazy collab, people are going to look at it and be like, I don't really know. Like, does he get it? Or so like.
I don't know, based on your walk song, you might get it.
I'd love to think so.
Yeah,
I'd love to think so. Yeah, but it's that for me. It just keeps coming back to like you got to open the door for the right people and give the keys to the people that are going to do it the best possible, because that's what is going to lead to success.
I love that. How the lessons maybe you've learned with these really incredible collaborations, how are you going to take that to Underdog? Like Underdog is a totally different beast. A lot of direct to consumer. It's kind of an interesting category. Sits in fantasy and betting, and it's an interesting state. Like, what are you going to take to your new role?
No doubt.
Sorry, it's at your day 3 tomorrow. So what are you going to do? What are you going to do?
Whatever they let me do is what I'll do. No, I'm like, to me, like you mentioned as well, that like there's not a lot of people speaking to the Latina community specifically very well. So like that's a huge part of it, and like I think something that I've learned, through education from Jose and our team, and is like that doesn't mean just taking your English post and translating it into Spanish and calling that good enough, right? Like that doesn't work, so that doesn't fly. So like that's a huge part of it for me. Is like it's the same thing. It's like, how do people speak? Like, what is conversational? What is actual like their life like? So integrating into that as much as we can, right? Because the buying power is there, the spending power is there, and obviously Underdog, like when it comes to gambling and betting, like money is the main goal, right? We want all your money to come in. We'll give you a little bit back occasionally, but so yeah, that's probably the main thing, is like finding those ways to do it. Like I said, do it authentically, but it has to happen. Like if you're not doing it, you're missing the mark. So
yeah, totally get that. Austin, I want to talk to you a little bit about nostalgia. We all love it. There's this like resurgence in sports. I feel like anytime someone does a really cool collab, it typically goes back in time. We're not really going more modern. It's these retro looks and feels. Do you feel like this desire to tap into those kind of nostalgic feelings as a fan, and whether you're like a new fan or your family's been a fan, you've watched these games, like curious, is that part of the reason Hat Club has been successful, is leaning into that?
Yeah, for sure, 100%. I mean, Hat Club was founded in '92, started out as a membership-based business. And we've taken a lot of inspiration from that era. So Danny Ainge was the founder of Hat Club, NBA player Danny Ainge. So he sold it to the Stachel brothers, who are now currently the owners, but we revert back to that time a lot when Danny was in ownership and had the reins. So what was happening in sports during that time period? What was happening in streetwear culture during that time period? Looking back at that and seeing how do we put a new twist on this that we know our customer and our community is going to love. Like similar to what you were saying, the authenticity behind it. If you just reach out for any sort of nostalgia, you're gonna hit it. You're not gonna hit it out of the park. Like, you have to make sure that you're tapping in with the right members of the community, the right people that are core members of your community or of your product, and making sure that you're tapping into exactly what they want to see in their headwear or streetwear culture as a whole. So, I think that you'll continue to see that. It's very cyclical headwear. Been in this business for over a decade. You'll continue to see 90s pull back out every 10 years or so. That's where it's kind of hot right now. Now you're starting to see early 2000s come back, that Spike Lee era. But it's, it's very cyclical and it'll all happen again. So.
Yeah, I love that. Jennifer, you gave me some incredible talking points, and I had to dive into, like, can we trademark this? The phrase cultural competency comes to mind, and you brought this up, and the ability to move at the speed of culture. And kind of on this note of nostalgia, we've got this younger audience of Latina fans, and they might be, what do we consider young? Today's my birthday, I'm 33, is that still young? Like, are we who's young? Okay, tell us about, like, so young, it's like, I don't even know how old they are anymore. So you've got this young fan who's been exposed to tech, and are they tapping into the same things, like with the retro and nostalgia? Like, do they have that history? Like, I'm curious about the approaches you think would be a best strategy for, a brand trying to tap into that audience.
cultural competency is key, right? They have such a sense of discernment, they're gonna sniff out bullshit a mile away, right? And just like what you were saying. But you know what kind of pisses me off too? It's like, up here, people have been saying, yep, we have to tap into the right partners, but let's bring that talent inside, right? Let's bring that diverse talent inside and grow within, but still partner with partners, right? Because right now, if you don't do that, then you're gonna release some trash. Sorry, what was your question?
You're like, I'm pissed off. I don't know anymore, I'm sorry. No, it's just, I'm curious about, this, you've got a modern fan, a young fan, and I'm curious, like, what are authentic ways that you're seeing brands actually tap in? Like, give me some good examples. I'd love to hear if there's anyone doing it well, and if they're not, I want to know that too.
Yeah, I think it is tapping into where they actually are in their life, right? And yes, technology is abundant and they grew up with it and they're fucking tired of it, They just need a little bit of a break. So that realness, if you're tapping into their real core needs of like who they are a little bit scared, they're in a turning point in their life. These are the things that they're worried about, right? It's just like, am I gonna fit in? But I'm also dominating culture and they know it. They have such a sense of swag right now, and confidence. It's beautiful. So I think any brand that is really, really having a pulse on Gen Z right now, you have to look at diversity. Black and brown kids. I mean, I don't know if you came up and you saw the factory out there for the who was it, the Carson show tonight? All that kids. I mean, that was a block and a half of all black and brown kids, and that is the future of what the brands need to study. I mean, I should have seen everybody here from AT&T to Frito-Lay to Pepsi. All their marketers should have been out there with a freaking clipboard asking questions. That's where you need to be.
We touched on just a little bit. I want to go back to community. Flex on some of the stats of like how many people are actually a part of your community and they're highly engaged. Are you guys hosting events? I know you're doing your survey with a lot of people, but talk to me about some of the initiatives that you guys are working on, because you're everywhere again.
Yeah, I'm super proud. We're in startup mode. So in less than 8 months, we've been able to cultivate an audience of 25,000 Latinas across the country. We are highly, highly engaged communities. I mean, we're the only ones doing this, but if you're looking at our makeshift competitor set, our engagement rate is 7 times higher. We have a weekly newsletter where it's called Color Commentary. We're bringing the sports and industry news through the Latina lens. We've got a 68% open rate, right? Our competitors, yeah.
First of all, guys, industry average is 8 sometimes. I'm worse.
So if you're looking at some other sports industry news competitors that you're looking at that 60 or below, even that 48 mark is kind of where our competitors are. They're hungry for this. And so we're bringing our dedicated, loyal fans to brands. And we're also activating digital programming and IRL. I mean, you put together sports and Latinas at a good time, we're there, right? We just got 50 people within 24 hours to mob to a Dodgers game last week in LA, and it was a damn good time. So we're very proud.
I'm really proud of you guys. You guys are crushing it. AJ, I know you gotta get out of here in a second, so I got one last question for you. Well, first of all, thank you for taking time out of your crazy all-star schedule. But we're happy to have you.
Thanks for having me.
I feel like, again, you're such a force on social and in media. I'm curious, are you being approached by a lot of brands and other partnerships or teams or leagues to try and tap into that? And how do you think about them? Do you partner with a lot of other teams, leagues, or organizations, or even brands themselves? Do you have opportunities to do that in your position?
Yeah. I work a lot with Together. I do different things with the WNBA as well, and so a lot of different mission or women-led industries or programs or companies, especially when it comes to women empowerment. Being the first woman to win a Rolling Stone Glove has been something that's really extremely important to me, because when I was told I was going to in the running to win a Gold Glove, I thought I was going to be some version of the male Gold Glove. I didn't think it was actually going to be a real Gold Glove. And so after winning that, to me, it was an opportunity where, you break glass ceilings, make history. And when one woman does it, it knocks down the doors and leads to so many more openings, so many more doors for other women to do the same. And so for me, it's always been a mission of mine to continue to work with women in sports in order to realize that those things are possible, especially Black women in sports. Because in softball and in baseball, we don't see a lot of Black women or Black men playing the game. And so to me, we talk about representation, to see it, to believe it, to achieve it. And I want to be one of those people that these young girls and young men see. And so when I'm working with those organizations, I also work with a lot of different brands. That the mission is always, we talk about being authentic, to be authentic and talk about my story, or talk about how it is to get from X or A to Z. But also making sure that I'm really doing a good job of telling who I am as an athlete, as a media personality, but also as a woman, and making sure that everyone feels seen in those spaces. And so, yeah, I work a lot with women-led organizations. That's definitely my bread and butter. But then with T-Mobile out here, with All-Star and different baseball-led brands as well.
On your Instagram, it says the Beyonce of softball.
I did not give myself that.
I was going to tell you.
I own it very well,
If you
but I
did
didn't give
it,
it.
whoever did was spot on.
I was on the Tom Jordan Morning Show, and they actually, after I won the Gold Glove, and they introduced me as, she has all these flashy catches, she's the Beyonce of softball. So I went to my Instagram right after that interview, and changed it to Beyonce of softball.
No,
And so,
I love it because what she does for community and inspiring women and brands to think more thoughtfully about their approaches. Like so I was going to tell you, if you didn't make that up yourself, you absolutely deserve it.
I'm gonna own it. I'll say on that Instagram.
That would be my first tattoo if anyone ever called me that. No one's called me that yet. But maybe after the Beyonce panels. No. Anyway. Okay. So to wrap this up, because I do want to allow for some networking. I want to know. I would love for you guys to tell everybody one thing you've got coming up or something to look out for, and then how to follow you, where to follow you, where you're most active on social. Beyonce softball here on Instagram. But please tell us what you have coming up and how people can engage with you for future.
Well, please just watch Play Ball on MLB Network. Comes on Saturdays and Sundays at 10 a.m. And then, follow my socials, AJ_Andrews_ on a mission to completely do what I can in baseball to drive culture and drive change, bring more black and brown faces in the game, softball and baseball. So, love for y'all to be a part of that mission.
Buy Rangers tickets. That's the first thing. But more specifically, buy them Monday nights. There's a mariachi band, the Rangers mariachi band. We have our own actual mariachi band, which is super cool. They play every month.
Mexican OT on Saturday.
Mexican OT, Big Tuck Saturday, Texas Live. Not all Saturdays, one Saturday a month. We do a thing called Viva Tejas at Texas Live. That is really cool and packed out every single Saturday. It doesn't matter how hot it is. We get great artists and Mexican OT and Big Tuck on
Don't
Saturday.
forget to download your new job. Download Underdog.
Yeah, download Underdog Sports promo code. I probably should have.
Don't forget your new job. You need a promo code. You can't forget.
Yeah, I gotta get a promo code. I'll work on that. But legally bet for now.
Yes.
And when it becomes legal in Texas, then we'll go all in. That'll be awesome.
Love it.
Love it. Well, obviously I'm up here talking about Latina sports fans, so if you're curious about the future of fandom, please do connect with me and follow us across social channels at We Are Drafted Co. And you can find us at wearedrafted.co.
And you can find Hat Club at Hat Club on just about any social media network. Join the community. There's a million nice people in the headwear community. People just love talking hats, talking fashion, talking sports. So join our Discord if you want to really get engaged on a day-to-day moment. We live stream on Twitch and Instagram every Wednesday, talking hats and talking fashion. So join us there.
Do you have any cool drops you can tell us about? Can you tease anything?
Oh, it's always going. It's always going. Rangers related. I think we have some good stuff coming up in the next couple of weeks. So
Very cool.
All right, very, very, very.
Oh yeah, by way of Dallas night. Jose, what night is that?
Unofficially August 24th.
You didn't hear it here, but keep your eyes peeled. Another Rangers by way of Dallas collab coming.
Clear my calendar. There were a lot of people in line. I saw the out of control. I will clear the schedule. Guys, I want the loudest round of applause for these guys for taking their time out of their